acknowledge the anointing of our bishop, who have really made this thing possible. And then I also want to thank you, all of you, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm standing here representing two entities. The first one is RMA Mutual Assurance. This is a company that has been established more than 125 years ago. I'm one of the executives in this organization, which is very committed to transformation. And that's why we are here today. Now, this company was formed in 1894. It was formed by the mining houses. Back then, there was no legislation in our country to govern workers' compensation, which means if you were an employee at the time and you got injured, for you to receive any compensation of some sort, you had to sue your employer for you to receive compensation. But these mining houses at the time, they knew that it was a matter of time before the government introduces a legislation to force employers or to ensure that injured employees receive their compensation. So as a result of that knowledge, they said, let's form an entity, a mutual, which will look after the people in the mining industry, because these entities were operating in the mining industry. And back then, people used to get injured a lot. There used to be a lot of fatalities in the mining industry. So they couldn't really live with the conscience to see people dying in the mining industry, people getting disabled in the mining industry and receiving nothing. So they saw it fit to establish an entity, independent entity, and say this entity will contribute funds to it, and it will then compensate people who get injured. So now, in 1941, our government in South Africa then came with the first legislation, which was the Workmen's Compensation of 1941, to now start to govern workers' compensation in South Africa. So I just want to make sure that I'm on the same slide. So with that legislation, then every employer was then forced to register with the compensation fund and contribute to ensure that whenever people get injured in their employ, they receive compensation. So RMA Mutual then went to the government and said, we've been doing this for the mining industry already. Can you please consider giving us a license so that we can continue to administer workers' compensation under the same legislation? And the government was quite pleased to realize that there was an entity that was already doing that. And then they were granted that license. So they've been doing that since 1894. In 1941, they continued under license from the government. And in 1993, when the Workers' Men's Compensation was then amended into COIDA Act, then they continued to grant them a license. But then I think in 2015, then they really asked the government to say, we seem to have done very well in administering workers' compensation for mining industry. Can you please really consider extending our license so that we can also cover iron, steel, and metals? And the government did that. So they extended their license to do iron, steel, and metals. So now this company is now looking at more than 1 million lives that are working in these industries. And those who have worked in these industries or who have got relatives in these industries, they might know about this company. So it currently pays more than 17,000 pensions to people in 21 countries. Most of them are in Eastern Cape, in Lesotho. So I've got a slide that I've just shown there. So when you look at that slide, so it will show you that there's a Lesotho, because it used to be one of those area that used to send a lot of mining employees to South Africa. So we've got more than 3,500 pensioners there. In Mozambique, it has got more than 1,000 pensioners there. And in other countries like Botswana, Swaziland. Then what the company has now decided was to now introduce other products other than COIDA, to start to really go into the public and issue products that can assist the public. And that's what we want to talk about today. But also not just to issue products, but to also assist with transformation. Because as an entity, this entity today, as we speak, it is worth more than 22 billion. So which means in terms of BEE, there are certain funds that have to be utilized in terms of BEE, in terms of transformation. So now with this entity now diverting into other products, like funeral covers, life covers, it means now entities that are owned by black people, churches can now start to benefit from the programs that we have in this entity. Now, as you can see there, we're talking about the fact that we do empower churches by providing training for the youth. We are assisting the youth within the church by making sure that they can be employed, by training them into financial service sectors. And then we also have systems that we assist the churches with, where we can give systems to the churches to help with membership administration. So here I just want to show one example of one of the products that we have on funeral, which is a 60 rand cover, which pays about 10,000. And then we also have other covers that pays up to 30,000. But when you've got organizations or entities like Rivers of the Living Waters, so these rates can be discounted, which means members can get these rates at lower prices. But we took this opportunity because we understood that we are coming to talk to business people here, where we say these are the products that we have that we can also offer to businesses. So we do have a contact center, which is a one-stop shop, which really assists us to give proper service. We have working branches, as I've indicated on the other slide earlier on, that are around the country. And then we've got a team of sales and support consultants. Some of our staff members are sitting at the back there. So, and I mean, they've got a desk on the other side where they will show you and talk to you in detail about our offerings. Then, within the churches, what we do, we don't come to the church if we are partnering with the church and say, we're going to bring our agents. We identify people from the churches, we train them, we appoint them, and then they become the sales agents that will sell our products to church members. Then now, we've got this partnership, which is our distributing agent. So today, what we have brought here is Sena Financial Services. So Sena Financial Services is a black-owned entity, which is one of the entities that we're trying to empower. They distribute our products. We are training them to empower them. And we use them as a catalyst when we partner with churches. Because, for instance, if we are to use the church to distribute our products, the church will have to have a license. So to get a license, the church will have to meet certain requirements, which is not easy. So that's why in that case, we use our partners like Sena Financial Services to make sure that they can be able to distribute those products to the church members, but at the same time, also get some rewards. Then I think we would like to speak more about the COIDA, because COIDA, I think, as business people here, affect all of us. And what we see as Rand Mutual is that most people are not familiar with COIDA, which is Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases. Now, it's very, very important that every single business, if you employ people, you have to be registered with the compensation fund. If you fall under any other industry except mining, iron and steel and metals. So which means you have to be registered. So if you are not registered, it means you are not complying. So we thought today we'll use this platform to also talk about that. And Sena Financial Services assists businesses that do not fall under mining. So if you fall under mining, you will be with RMA, everything works fine. But then Sena will assist every other business in all other industries to register with the compensation fund, and when your people get injured, they also ensure that they get the benefits. Now, this is the vision and mission of Sena. I'm not going to go through this in detail in the interest of time. But I think when you look at the Sena logo, it's got a logo there which has got an S, And that S has got some shades that represents the rivers coming together, which is a representative of partnerships, where the focus area here between SENA and RMA is the underprivileged communities, where we say, what can we do to really assist our communities, to empower them so that they can also be economically empowered. Now, so SENA as a catalyst, it's got various products that it assists people to place with underwriters. So building insurance, your car insurance, your public transport, your vehicle tracking, and all the life products. So these are the products that you can get under one roof. So I often say to my insurance partners that I do not understand why in insurance, Christian people pay the same premium as everybody else. And they don't understand what I mean. I say, well, these people, they've got a different lifestyle. They are honest people. I believe that these insurance models, so I believe that these insurance models in insurance should recognize spirituality. And they should get those discounts. So now, the aim here with SENA, using SENA as that catalyst to change that. So which means, if you want to insure your car, it should be recognized. So if Bishop can attest that this is a member of my church, we should trust that and say, we're going to discount your premium by so much. And this is exactly what SENA, with its partners, is doing. Because we say, these people are different. They cannot be treated like everybody else. Exactly. So the bishop is right. So these people they don't drink and drive. So they don't sell their cars and say, my car has been stolen. They don't do all those things. So these people don't spend time at night at the shebins. If they are driving at night, they are coming from a prayer service or all-night prayer early in the morning. So, but I think, as Bishop was saying earlier, when we look at Christians in our country, it's a lot of them. But I don't think we are doing enough to influence things. And I think the insurance industry is one area where I believe we can influence. And I think between SENA Financial Services and starting with RMA and other partners, we can do that. Now, in terms of COIDA Act, the section that I was talking about here, to say who should be covered is every employee who has entered into a contract of service. You might be a learner, you might be a director, you might be a casual employee, you might be a labor broker and all that. Those people are all covered. So what I often say to young people who have got businesses here, I encourage them to register with the competent fund, because injuries do happen. It is reality. And when they do happen and you are a small entity and you are no longer able to work, what happens? Where do you get your income? So your company shuts down. So I'm going to talk about the benefits so that people can really see the need for this workers' compensation, for this COID, which is Social Security. Now, in terms of the Act, Section 8 of COIDA Act, we all have to register if we're employer, so that when people get injured in our employ, they should be compensated. Now, what does it pay? What are the benefits that are paid by this COID Act? So immediately when you are injured, you need to receive medical treatment. So COID Act pays for all your medical treatment, which means there's no need for somebody who is injured at work to be taken to a public hospital because there's no money. You should be taken to a private hospital if your employer is registered. But by the way, even if your employer is not registered, you should be able, if you contact SENA, we can help you to go to a private hospital and register your claim, and then the government will deal with your employer later. So it is Social Security. So because often we hear people saying, well, my company is not registered, I'm injured, so I don't have access to that. It is not true. As long as you are working for somebody, if you get injured on duty, your claim can be registered, and then the employer will deal with your employer. The government will deal with your employer later. So all your medical treatment gets taken care of. Then once you are receiving medical treatment, what about your salary? What happens? So this act says you have to receive 75% of your earnings during that time of medical treatment. So which means if you're earning 1,000 rands, you should be getting 750 until you recover. And this act says it can pay your medical treatment for up to 2 years. So which means if you've got a serious condition, it can be treated up to 2 years. Some conditions are lifelong, like for people who are paralyzed, who are sitting on wheelchairs. This act allows for the treatment for life. You have to get your wheelchair all the time. You have to go for your medical examination all the time. You have to go for your review all the time. So it's very important that people are covered here. So your temporary total disablement, which is when you are off work, the salary, you can get it up to 2 years, to 24 months as well. Which means you don't have a challenge that I don't have a salary because I'm injured, I'm still in medical treatment. This act pays for that. So as soon as you have recovered, then you need to be assessed. Once you are assessed, you can either get a lump sum payment, so which means if your disability is between 1% to 30%, you will get a once-off lump sum, which is good money. But if your disability is between 31% to 100%, then you get a lifelong monthly pension. This is under this COIDA Act. Then if the injured employee die as a result of the injuries, then the spouse and the children, the spouse gets a lifelong monthly pension. The children gets pension up to the age of 18. If they are still undergoing tertiary education, they are paid until they complete their education. So there are very good benefits here. It also has the funeral benefit. It's just over 18,000. So which means in the benefits, there's also a funeral cover for those who die as a result of their work-related injuries. So it is very, very important. So we thought today, as businesses are here, so we really need to understand that. So now, we would like really to encourage people to go to the desk on the other side once everything is done to really understand how it works. And then from there, we can make follow-ups discussion afterwards. So we really want to really thank you, Bishop, for the opportunity.
Chelete becomes your servant. You are not becoming a servant. This is a serious thing. Sometimes we Christians, we are so ignorant. These people can take you, that member, to the hospital and they sue you on his behalf. That's what I understand.
No, it's correct, Bishop. So
you guys, you need to make sure that you understand. If anybody gets injured where you are, these people can sue you on their behalf. But Bamisa to the expensive hospital, who must pay the bill?
The government will pay. If it's any other industry, it will be paid by the government. The employer, once you pay your contribution, which is not expensive. So if you're talking,
if you don't pay the contribution.
So if you don't pay the contribution and your employee gets injured, we will assist the person to register the claim with the compensation fund. The compensation fund will pay everything. But then they will come to you and say, we have discovered that you had employed this person and this person got injured and we paid 200,000. I'm just giving an example. So we paid 200,000. So then we believe that you should give us back this 200,000.
That's what I'm trying to say. That you don't just clap your hands without understanding this. No, we will ask questions later, but really this has just opened up my eyes. I have seen something here. You know, if you don't pay your compensation, then your compensation fund, then you're in trouble. Pastors, you got this person that is cleaning in your house. And the person gets injured. And this Ho comes and help that person, they are going to claim that money from you. This is South Africa. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bishop. So I think we see this a lot in the taxi industry, transport industry. I think most taxi owners are not registered. When I hear every day people are getting that they're dying, there's no compensation. And I think because Sena now is really marketing itself, we're seeing a lot of people now approaching Sena. So which means a lot of claims are going to be registered and there will be challenges. Thank you.
Chelete becomes your servant. You are not becoming a servant of money. Money becomes your servant. Money works for